We're
Hello.
live.
Okay. Is the live chat working?
I think so, yes.
Okay, cool. I was like, usually it like shows a thing, but I don't see it. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. We are here to celebrate the release of Café Con Lychee. I am Emery Lee, the author, obviously, of Café Con Lychee and Miku Diary. And I am here with Gabriela Martins, the author of uh, Like a Love Song and Bad at Love, which comes out later this year.
Yes, August.
I'm so excited for it.
I am so excited to be here actually. Like I really enjoyed Mid Cute Diary, but your sophomore book was something else. It was just next level. I really can I already start the gushing? Is that okay?
I think it's valid. I think that's fair.
Okay, fair. I really loved so many things about it. I really liked how it's sweet and tender, but it also deals with some heavy topics that unfortunately queer kids go through, like it's very relatable in that sense. And they are such lovable characters. I really enjoyed being in their heads. They're so different. Like Theo is so confident and so, sure of like the place in the world and just like very like okay, this is what I want and this is who I am. And then you have Gabi, who is like, please someone love me. Like, oh my god, I love you. I will love you. I will adopt. God, yeah, it got straight to my feelings. I had such a good time with it. I feel
Thank
like people
you.
who loved Meet Cute Diary, they're not ready for this book.
Like
Like
I
it can,
feel like it was a really big difference, like for me too, just like writing it because like I don't like to write like the same story like twice, but like more than that, I feel like I don't feel comfortable exploring like the same like themes and like topics, like energy even like from like one book to the next. I always feel the need to like kind of like dramatically like do things a little bit differently. So like with Cafe Con Lychee, I feel like the vibes are totally different. The energy was like, very different. And just like the level of like angst, like I dialed it up to 12 on the angst. And then just like, yeah, like I feel like it was just like, but I feel like it was like kind of cathartic because like with Meet Cute Diary, it was all about like how do I show like happiness and like this pure like unabashed joy, like how can I make it so these characters are having like that experience of like queer joy without like the queer suffering. And then I feel like with this one it was kind of like, okay, but I can explore a little bit of suffering here, like it's okay if we want to, like get a little angsty sometimes. I think that's okay.
I think you really managed that. I think it's a still very Emery Lee. You've definitely established your brand. Like I could, if I read it without any content, like in a pitch wars kind of situation, just like the manuscript without a name. That's not how pitch wars works. I don't know how I said that. Okay, you know what I mean, right? If I had just been handed the manuscript without any names, I would have been able to tell it was or it was the same person who wrote Mid Cute Diary. But you did write something very different, even structurally, right? Because this is dual POV and written, like Meet Cute Diary had a very specific type of structure that worked for that type of book. And with this one, it was very different. But I think you really worked you said you dialed up the angst to 12. And yes, there were tears, they were shed, but I don't think it was. I think it felt natural, to the progression of the book. I think you managed to do this. Am I making any sense? No.
I think
Okay.
so. No, I think I get what you're saying, like the ebb and flow, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Is interwoven a word in English?
I think so.
Yeah, it did feel like it was interwoven, like really. well. I think you've really accomplished something really beautiful
Thank
with it.
you.
It was
I love how we're like two authors sitting here like, is that a word? I think so.
yeah, I mean, I am English is not my first language, right? So
Yeah.
every now and then I'll be looking at something and I'll be like, okay, I know how to say this in my mother tongue, but how is this in English? But well, it's just oh god. So I don't have my physical copy, but I do have it like on my Kindle, and I have so many feelings. I feel like, can I just gush about it for like an hour? Is that okay? Like
You know what? Like, let's. I feel like we should normalize this. Like, author events are just like authors getting to like sit there and like be showered and praised for like an hour. I think that would be like
okay,
really like fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
this sounds amazing. This sounds amazing because I really really enjoyed it. I have been reading when I read it earlier this month or late last month, I think. And I had been reading like just nonfiction books for not for any specific reason. You know, it just happened that this was the first fiction book that I read after a while, and it was so emotional for me. You know, it was so because as you've probably already all guessed, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Gabby, I'm queer. I'm And as a queer person, to read about their experiences, and there's something really touching about how they faced certain, I mean, they faced internalized ideas, but also, you know, when it comes from the outside, those homophobic moments, it's something that unfortunately it's very rare that a queer person goes through life without experiencing something like this. So, you know, it felt very cathartic, like you had mentioned before. Also to read it, you know, like I imagine to write it, but also to read it, and just very emotional. I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about it, but their journeys was like really beautiful. I don't want to spoil the ending, but I do think that the ending was extremely satisfying. So you won't be disappointed by the end at all if you haven't read the book yet. And yeah, it was just such a beautiful journey. I'm so happy I got a chance to read it.
Thank you. Like, I feel like, part of it too was just kind of like my way of being like, I think people kind of, and you see this a lot in books where like, if there's like queer phobia of any sort, it's kind of like extreme. Like, it's that very like overt, like macro aggressions, like where like the kid is like walking down the hallway and like gets like bullied or like, their head is shoved in a toilet or something like that. And it's like, of course, like, don't get me wrong, like that stuff obviously happens. And like, it is just like, it can be just a natural part of the experience. But I think people kind of almost forget because we're so used to seeing those like macro aggressions that like even when you have people in your life who are, mostly accepting and like, mostly open to who you are, there are still those like moments of like, okay, but like just being around like non-queer people can feel very like, and so like whereas Gabby has a little more of that like experience with like the macro aggressions, I wanted to also have Theo kind of experience like those microaggressions where it's like, whereas like Gabby's like afraid to come out and like that's like a huge part of his story and like his experience with like his parents. Like with Theo, it's like he has family who supports him and they do like support him. But they also don't always make sure that he feels supported. And I feel like that's just like a big thing. Like, and I think a lot of like queer, like families of queer people don't know how to, like, they don't realize what is actually needed to like make a queer
Mhm.
teen feel supported. And so that was just kind of like, I feel like it was, yeah, cathartic and also just kind of like freeing to kind of be able to say like, okay, but like, yeah, you did these things and that's cool, but also here are the ways that like your kid may not still feel supported even if you're trying,
Mhm.
and like to kind of like raise that like visual of like even when things are good, sometimes things still have like their problems and like it's important to kind of like try to be aware of like those things.
Yeah, I definitely went through that as well. Like I had supportive family, I guess, but it took my mom especially like a little while to understand how to be supportive. I was no longer a teen. I was 21, I think, but you know, still pretty young, and not really like needing, definitely needing support. So I definitely related so much to that, of like there's so much more that we face than just those big scenes that make it to movies. And like, of course, being beat up is atrocious and horrific and should be talked about, but there are so many more ways to hurt someone, right, than those very big ways. I think you did very well on that, on showing like the two sides. I love that Theo was out, and because then you can really see like the two characters' journeys to each other and from very different perspectives. Like they're both queer, but they're from different paths in their journeys. Like they are in different lands, in different times, and I really liked to see them meet each other. It was and plus like the enemies to lovers aspect. Like when we talk about that, Emery, because it's, God, I loved it. I love how it starts with Theo being like, this dude is the bane of my existence. Like, if we lose one more game because of him, because we will, I'm gonna lose it. I love that. I love that. It just sets the tone so well. Like personally, as a writer, I struggle a lot with knowing when to begin my story. I always start like a little too ahead or not early enough. And I think that you started it perfectly. I love the
Thank
first scene.
you.
First scenes are very impactful, and I really loved yours.
Thank you. I mean, I know we've talked like tropes a lot. Like we've done like so many like talks together about tropes and everything. But like, yeah, I feel like when it comes to like, I feel like it's almost something I always like to start with, like whenever I'm doing like enemies to lovers, which is a really common trope for me. So this is actually like most things I write. But I just feel like setting the stage of exactly how they feel about each other. And like, I think to a certain extent, like even with Theo's like inner monologue, like from the beginning, if you're listening to like how he's like talking about like Gabby and shit, it kind of, you can kind of see that like his hatred is built more on like this like system of Gabby being the enemy more than it is like actually like knowing and hating this person.
Mhm.
And I feel like it was kind of like whereas like Gabby like doesn't like hate Theo as much, but like he still kind of sees him as like, that's Theo Mori. Like he's like on this opposite end of like, this like rivalry between our parents. Like we can never be on the same side because of that. Like I feel like with Theo, he just has like this rage that's just very like, and I think a lot of times, like especially when you're a teenager, when you have like things kind of out of your control, sometimes you pick one thing that is within your control and that kind of becomes like the whole basis of your reality, right? So for Theo, it's soccer. Like it's the one thing he's been like good at his whole life. It's the one thing that like people like praise him for. And so he's like, oh yeah, soccer, this is my thing. Haha. Like if I'm good at soccer, people will realize how cool I am. And then like Gabby, like, sucks at it. And he's like, and they're losing every game because he's so bad at it. And Theo's here like, oh my God, this kid is like the reason that my life is miserable, because if he just wasn't here, things would be good,
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, what he's really mad at is like this whole like structural, like, trying to like keep control of his life. But I think that anger towards Gabby, that is like, that misplaced anger, is just kind of like his fuel, like through the first portion of the book.
Mhm.
And so like I was like very much, okay, like we're gonna start out, like we need to build that tension. Like once you see how much he like hates Gabby, you also realize how much he's thinking about Gabby, which is what becomes your basis for how much he's thinking about Gabby later.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to say about what you said now. Like I loved how, I think it's still like in the first chapter or one of the first chapters, where he starts considering, he mentions in his inner no, it's when his dad brings him the graphic design is my passion types of cards, and he's like, you know what, like even if there was no soccer, I would still hate this kid on the basis of our families being rivals. And that is such a powerful moment, because then you're like, okay, so like you're okay, you have no reason, basically. Like there is no reason, because that's not a good reason to
It's
hate.
not.
Yeah, it's so, and I love that rage about Theo, because again, I feel like, especially when you're a teen, there's basically like two ways for you to react with the injustices that are happening to you and around you. And it's either you become, I think both are actually outlets for depression, but like either you become blue or you lash out. And I love that like we have the two main ways of like dealing with stuff. Like personally, I was much more aggressive. I was much more like when I was a teen. So reading Theo's mind was so much fun, especially when he didn't make any sense. He was doing like all of this mental gymnastics to explain why Gabby is actually a horrible person. And, like, like
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I also really, really love, like you mentioned that for, how much he's thinking about Gabby and stuff. I think that makes for a really tense first half of the book. Like throughout the first act, actually, I would say like the first third of the book, it's really tense. Like you really build the atmosphere. So whenever they're around each other, you're like, let's hold our breaths and see what happens. I'm afraid, excited, but I'm afraid. So I love that. I think there's a very natural progression to their relationship. So I was very excited to see that. Okay, like I've basically just gushed. I do have questions. Needed to like vomit rainbows first, because I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's okay. I think we're having a pretty natural, organic conversation, even if it's a lot of gushing and then just a lot of like random
Yeah, I
story.
mean, it is an extremely like gushable book. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's also like it deals with some delicate topics in a very well done way. Like Emery is an incredible author, but also I'm just like, so there's that. There are both things can be true. Okay. So I know that you usually pants your books, right? Was this book also pantsed?
Yeah, it was. Well, okay, so this one's funny because this is actually the book that taught me that I can never outline. And the reason for being is because I wrote about three-quarters of it, and sold it like on proposal to my current editor who also edited Meet Cute Diary. So I had about three-quarters of it written and then like the outline giving the ending. And so, she had bought the book from there. And so, she was like, oh yeah, like here's some suggestions on how you can finish it up. And I was like, okay, cool, sweet. Like I'm going to go write it. And like if you know me, you know that I can generally write like a full length novel in about 2 weeks. I sat down for like a month and was just like, I can't write a third of a novel in like a month because I'm just like, I can't write from an outline. Like, I don't know how to write from this outline. It's just so hard. So that was basically, yeah. So I ended up like all of like the beginning, like in the middle were completely just like pants. And then when I got to the end, I had to write it from the outline. And I actually ended up changing things, even though we had sold it according to the outline. So it was okay because like she still liked it. But like, I was like, I can't do this. I can't just write what this is telling me to write. I can't do it. I cannot.
Wow. So you technically changed the ending.
I didn't change like the ending, but I changed some of the stuff like leading into the ending.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You changed like the scenes.
Yes.
That's so wild. Like, I will never not be impressed with people like you who can just be like, okay, I'm gonna write a book. Dun, 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 dun. Like, I need a detailed outline. The only way I can write a book like in a month is if I have an outline. Like my second book, I also sold on proposal, and I had to write it in like a month, and it was my debut month. So it was and the only reason I got anything done was because I had an outline. If I didn't have an outline, I would simply be like, okay, goodbye publishing. It was It was nice to be around for a bit. Bye. That's incredible to me. That's
Like it's just
incredible.
so funny because I'm like literally like if you give me an outline, it is going to take me 5 times longer to actually write a book than
That's
if
so
you
right.
let me just write it from like the top of my head. Like I hate that, but it's true.
How does it feel to be God's favorite?
You know, see the thing is, it's like I'm God's favorite, but publishing's least favorite because it's always like it's like oh you are like oh yeah you know what I'm gonna write a book and I can just do it in like a week, but then they're like oh we need you to write this. I'm like you need me to write what now?
Oh God.
Like
I imagine that you would not be interested in writing IP and licensing and stuff like
here's
that,
the thing,
right?
I would love to write IP, but I would need them to let me like draft it. And then like they can be like, okay, change everything. And I could change everything, but I would need to have had it drafted first.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to finding out how that goes. So
You
please let
know?
me
Yeah, I know. I know.
be in on that. Okay, tell me about all of the things that you do when you're writing that are not writing, like
Oh
character
no.
lists and mood boards and daydreaming. I want to know like everything. Please
Oh
let me.
God. Put me on blast, why don't you? So I mean, yeah, I feel like the big thing is my playlist. Like that's the first thing I do. And that's just all vibes, no plot. Like I don't care what the lyrics are. It's if the vibes are right to like the story, then that's what goes. And then like depending on the book, I'll make like a book trailer, which like I don't know why I find that really enjoyable and really like lighthearted and like fun, like easy
I
writing.
love to watch it. I love to watch it.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I have a thing with book trailers. So I make all these like book trailers. Sometimes I'll make a few, like depending, like just like to try different styles and stuff. I don't know. Usually in at least one aesthetic, just like pictures together. And then like depending on the project, like not so much with my contemporary projects, but with like my usually like my fantasy and sci-fi projects, I'll put together like a Pinterest board to do like clothing, like settings, like that kind of stuff, and just kind of have like visuals so that like if I get stalled on like what things should look like, I have some sort of like reference.
Uh-huh.
And then usually something along the lines of like drawing art or commissioning art, depending on the project. And then yeah, I do a lot of daydreaming. Like I do a lot of daydreaming. Like if I go, okay, I'm gonna spend all day writing. It's like 6 hours of daydreaming and like 2.5 hours of writing. So it's like I spend just a lot of time, like, and I basically just like plan out hypothetical scenarios. I'll be like, what if like the characters were at a soccer game? And then I'll just play out the whole thing in my head. And like if it's good, then that will eventually end up in the book. And if it sucks, then I just know the characters better and I don't actually use any of it. So
Yeah. Do you have your best scenes come up when you're in the shower?
Not usually in the shower, though I have had some good ones in the shower, but I feel like usually I'll be like pacing and like depending on where I am, like I'll be like pacing either like in my apartment or like sometimes I'll be like in public. Like I'll just be like shopping at Target. I'll be like daydreaming like a story and be like doing stuff. I'll be like, oh wait, I'm at Target. I should not be weird. But like
Oh, weird. So
I feel like I feel like my best scenes always come up in like really weird places as I'm like pacing and just like really getting into it. Like I'll be like at the airport, like making like weird faces at myself as I'm like daydreaming like the story.
oh, absolutely. The weird faces.
Yeah,
Yes.
the weird faces are just
My absolutely favorite thing is to like act out arguments. And then, but for me, the shower is like the absolute best place. I have my best ideas there. And so I would be like washing my hair and I'd be like, what did you just say to me? What did you think was going to happen? I was going to find out. I was always going to find out.
I feel like that's like me, but like hurt comfort scenes. I always do like the dramatic like betrayal moment, like, oh, I see. Like the dramatic like walks away and the character's like, what have I done? And just like that whole like and like the makeup scene. Like I feel like I always do like that kind of like I'll just be like I'll be like yeah, like just to be like in the shower, like brushing my teeth in the morning, like
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. We are so weird.
it's so weird. I know.
Writers are so weird. You know what I love? When I'm writing, I will write like, I don't know, he sighed, and then be like, she rolled her eyes. They frowned. I'll be doing these faces while I write. And if there's someone around me, like I used to do a lot of writing in between my classes in the teacher's room, like I would just hog a computer and just be like writing and be doing like, And then the other teachers would look at me and they'd be like so confused. They would just be like,
You know? Yeah, no, like I feel that because with my characters too, like I come up with like how they talk, how they feel, like it's all based on vibes. So like when I am writing a character's dialogue, I have to like hear them say it in my head. So I'll be like acting out as if I'm the character, like, oh, like I have to say it like this. And like, what would he do? Oh, he would totally wave his hand like that. Like he would definitely wave his hand. And so I'll be there like, does that make sense? Like, does it fit the amount of words in this line? Like, do I need to make the sentence longer? I'll just be like here, like,
yeah,
and like,
yeah.
I used to write like at Starbucks all the time. Like it would be just, I would just like sit like in a Starbucks and just be like, can you do this? Like I remember one time I wrote a scene where a character flicks the other character on the nose, like kind of playfully. And I was just like, is that too mean? Does that hurt? And I'm just here like flicking myself in the nose, like with different like amounts of force, like if it like actually hurts. And like
I love that. I absolutely love that. You're incredible.
thank you.
But this is something I haven't done yet. I have not hurt myself in public while
Well, the good news is that it actually doesn't hurt. So it was very fortunate. I totally could put it in the book.
I said I have done like the flick of the back of the head though, but I had never like this. This is the first time I'm doing it. Yeah, it doesn't really hurt. Just like startles you a bit.
Yeah.
Interesting. I will, however, like stop and like sometimes get up to see if like something that I'm saying that they're doing with their body is actually like humanly possible.
Yes.
Writers are so weird, friend. Why are we like this?
You know, I have no answers, but it is unfortunate.
Yeah, I keep thinking of like the other people in our lives who are not writers, like them just watching us work. We probably seem very weird and silly, but it's okay because then masterpieces can come out of it, like your books.
Yeah, I mean, here's hoping it's worth it in the long run. Like, I hope everyone likes the book enough to make me flicking myself in the nose repeatedly, like, worthwhile.
Yes, absolutely. So, on that same vibe, and not at all, like, chronologically, I'm not even going to open the file I had of questions. I just want to with you. So, do you have any long-term, like, do you work with long-term goals? Or basically just your next book and then we'll see what happens?
So it's a little bit of both because I write more than I can actually publish. Because I generally draft about 3 to 4 books a year, as well as like an assortment of like short stories and all that kind of stuff. So like when I write, I don't really have like a publishing plan because I know that ultimately whatever book like goes out on sub, whatever book sells, like all that kind of stuff is going to vary depending on where exactly the market is at the moment that it needs to go out, like how long things take to edit, like where my agent is like, at in terms of like, what they want to work on and that kind of stuff. So I don't really like do a lot of plans as far as like, okay, this is going to publish now, this is going to publish next, this is going to like that kind of stuff. But I do have like game plans. Like, okay, if I could, I would love for this book to come out first, then I'll have like this one followed by like this series, followed by like this. Or like, I would love for like certain books to come out around the same time, like that kind of stuff. And then I also kind of do like I work on projects that are like separate from like my traditional publishing projects. Like right now I'm working on a webcomic series. And so like I have plans like laid out for that, like as I'm working through like my books, like, okay, well, if this book releases this month, then like I can have the like webcomic series released that month and like that kind of stuff. So I'll kind of like plan it out like that. But I'm always very like I feel like every time I write like 4 books in a year, I acknowledge that probably only one of those is actually going to end up published. So it just kind of becomes okay, whichever one, gets to go, that's going to be the one that takes it. Like,
and what are you allowed to share about your future in terms of publishing? So the webcomic, right?
What?
The webcomic, right?
Yes. So the webcomic is like my big project right now. And I can't like give like a lot of detail and stuff because it's very like, it's still kind of being like set up, but that will be out late next year, like fall of next year. I also have like at the end of the month, All Signs Point to Yes comes out, this anthology that I am in, and I have a short story.
Oh, you're in it! can't believe that they're sending me a copy, and I'm very excited, but I haven't read it yet.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, for everyone watching, it's an astrology romance anthology. So I have a short story in that.
Amazing. I love the premise. I love the premise.
It was honestly so much fun because I feel like the idea of starting a character with just like an archetype is like very much a thing that I do. So it'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
this is your character, and here are like the ways they have to approach love. I'm like, okay, I can work with that, and then just like drafting a whole story around that. I feel like it's super fun.
Emery, I have to tell you something. I think I locked my cat in the bathroom because he's meowing, and the rest of my house is all open. So will you excuse me just 1 second? I'm gonna face the wall in shame. Just
While Gabby is taking care of the cat, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my story. From All Signs Point to Yes, I wrote a story called The Cure for Heartbreak, and it is about a teen brujo who is helping the school jock get over a really bad breakup with his girlfriend. And basically, the kid comes in like, "Can you give me a magic potion that will like cure heartbreak?" And the main character is like, "No, but I'm going to help you figure it out anyway." And so they go on this little like journey of trying to get over his breakup, and that sparks feelings between them. And so that is just the concept of my story. It is the sign that I got was Pisces, so my main character fits that sign. Welcome back.
So what happened is, and I have no idea how to solve this, so please help if you have an idea in the comments. I am very much desperate. I am sorry to bring this emergency. But so I have like a sink. He's meowing. I have a sink, and then to support the sink, I have like what's that called? Like with drawers,
Like a cabinet?
like a cabinet. Yeah. But my precious cat, he can open cabinets.
Oh God.
And he locked himself in the bathroom because he opened a cabinet. And now I can't open more than 1 centimeter. And I don't know what to do. The door opens to the inside of the bathroom, but it's hitting the cabinet. And he's meowing.
Do you have some sort of like ruler or something you can like stick in to try to like push the cabinet back?
I mean, I have a ruler. I don't know if it's gonna work. Can you can I just go for like a minute and try to rescue
Go attempt to rescue the
Oh God, I am very distressed. Okay, I have a prompt for you though. Do you like reading out loud?
Not really, but I can do it.
Okay, it's because I wanted to share with others the first scene with them on the soccer field. I thought that was really, really well done, but you don't have to.
Oh, what, like the opening page?
Yeah, I really liked that scene.
Oh
And
yeah, I can read the opening.
Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, just 1 second. I am so sorry.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read from the beginning of the book. Okay, so this is like from the first line. They say your life flashes before your eyes just before you die, but let me make something perfectly clear. Whoever's in charge of that clip better not include a single fucking shot of Gabriel Moreno or I'm pressing charges. It's already bad enough having to look up at him from the soccer field. Grass stains so deep into my clothes, I'll have to spend the next week getting them out. He's got that goofy grin on his face as he stammers out an apology like he doesn't run me over every other practice. Actually, I think it's more than that by now. I'm so sorry, Theo, he says, holding out a hand to me. I reluctantly take it because I know Coach is watching and I don't want another fails to play nice with others report. That's just the way I am, I'm afraid. Bad at school, bad at making friends, and really bad at playing nice with teammates who are quite possibly single-handedly the reason our team hasn't won a single game in 2 years. Our motto is literally undefeated at being defeated. And I don't know. I guess it was naive of me to think that we could turn things around, really take junior year by storm and maybe earn me a couple of bonus points on my college apps so my parents would be a little less disappointed in me. I guess today's disaster is the universe telling me to stop dreaming too big. It won't happen again, Gabriel says. Then we stare at each other with blank faces because neither one of us believes that crap. So that's just like the little opening, which is, as we talked about before, kind of like, oh, did you get the kitty?
Yes, yes, yes. The ruler plan worked out. That's my other one. She was watching very stressed as well.
Oh my god.
But
Share the kitty with the audience.
The baby has been rescued. He was very nervous, Emery. I opened the door and he was like, no. He's I promise he's as big as a jaguar, but he's such a baby. Go play with your sister, baby. Thank you, though. This was a very good idea. I felt my soul leaving my body a couple of times, but because kittens are safe now. Okay. Well, back to your first scene. I loved it so much. I feel like it pulls you right into the story. And I really love Theo's narrative voice.
Thank you.
It's excellence. I really enjoy it. I love how he swears in the first paragraph.
Yeah. I feel like I can't explain why, but I feel like if I'm trying to write like a contemporary, like first person narrative, like where you're like in a character's head and it's just like a very like real world person, it's always easier for me when the character is really snarky and like sassy. Like I feel like characters who are just like, like really sweet and genuine, like I get it, yeah, okay, but I can't write like in the head of that kind of character. Like I feel like for Theo it was just very easy to be like, okay, he's irritated. He's irritated by everything. Let's just let some of that irritation like spill out onto the paper. Like,
yeah, I love that. And I think it's very genuine to being a teenager, like we were talking about before, right? That's one of the most common ways of dealing with the world around you. It's by lashing out. So I really love that. I have seen people being like, but like, I don't like it when teens swear because that in my most recent book that you blurbed. But wait, that doesn't look like a heart. Kinda. Okay, now it looks like a heart. Yay! Like one of my characters swears a lot and the other doesn't, but it's really because of the types of personalities they have. And we also know people really like to tag us when they have negative things to say about our books, right? And someone was like, she shouldn't swear that much. Teens don't swear that much. And I'm like, have you met any teenager? Ever?
Yeah, like no one swears more than teenagers.
Exactly. Like I swore so much when I was a teenager, like even to prove a point, just to be like, I can do this. Like you can't stop me from dropping the F-bomb every 2 sentences. So it's so funny to me when people are like, this is not how teens act. And usually they're like, they have the experience of knowing their child who would not swear.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing too, is it's like sometimes people just really want like a perfect role model of for their kid, or they're like, oh, this character should act the way that my child acts around me. And it's like, the way your child acts around you is not the way they act around their friends. Yeah. Like, like it's just, and like, it's okay. Like it's supposed to be that way. Like, I don't think a single person can honestly look back at their time as a teen and think, yeah, like, I was always on my best behavior. Like the behavior that I showed authority figures is how I wanted to be always, even when I was with my friends. Like,
yeah. I think that one thing that usually gets criticized in YA in general is that, the characters are so immature, like, who are you? Because I was so irrational when I was a teenager. Like I remember doing things that held value to me personally and that made absolutely no sense. And I'm not even talking about the big things, right? So I remember one time I was on the bus and there was this person I had a crush on who was also on the bus, but we were not friends. We were like acquaintances. They knew I existed And that's about it. We were not friends. And then they were about to get off at their stop, and I was sitting like in the back of the bus, and I was like, you know what would be really fucking romantic? And then I just yelled their name. Like for example, Emery! And then, they turned with a very confused face. They were like, what is... And they were older than me too, so probably they were thinking like, what is this child doing? They turned to me like, and I was like, hi. To me, that was, first of all, it made perfect sense. Okay. And second, that was really romantic. We were gonna get married because I had done that. And I remember telling my friends, thinking I had really done something, and they were like,
what the? Yeah.
Yelling their name on the bus? Why? And I was like, because it's romantic. And they were like, no, it's psychotic.
Because it's definitely something,
Right, right. So I feel like nothing should be considered off limits when you're writing YA, because like we have a mind of our own when we're teenagers. Like,
and I think like in general too, like fiction is not supposed to be like a one for one with reality. You know what I mean? Like it's supposed to give you insights on reality. Like it's supposed to show things that are like, that have an impact or reflection ish of reality. But it's like looking into a pond, right? Like you don't look into a pond and go, okay, well, the way that like, that person's face looks all wiggly because the water is like moving. Oh, that's what their face actually looks like in real life, right? Like it's supposed to be like a not perfect reflection. So like I feel like if a character does something in fiction that's a little over the top or a little immature or a little too corny, like I mean, yeah, like besides the fact that like, we in real life do occasionally do things that are a little weird or a little too corny or a little immature, but like even if we didn't, like the idea that fiction needs to be like completely 100% what you experience in real life, it's like, well, then what's the point of it being fiction?
Exactly. Yeah, you're totally, absolutely right. Like even when you're reading memoir, there's a reason people exaggerate. It's to be amusing or heartbreaking or enraging, like all of these things are valid. If it's just real life, like beat by beat, it's so boring. Like who wants to read that? I don't. I'm not interested.
I'm a huge fan of like taking something and just kind of like framing it to make it bigger than it is. And I feel like that's a big thing, like especially in YA, because when you're a teenager and you have all that angst and all that emotion, like things feel bigger than they are. And I feel like when you're writing a book, like people, like sometimes people will be like, oh my God, like why was this character so upset about this minor thing? And it's like, because that's where the story comes from. The story comes from the exaggeration, the blowing out of proportion of these daily, everyday things. Because otherwise, contemporary would be so boring. It would literally just be people like going to school and going to work and using the bathroom. Like, you have to take these things and, add an element of unrealism and blow things out of proportion and like heighten like, the feelings and the activities and all that kind of stuff to make it fun. Like,
yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. I just think it's so funny when people like, meow, meow. I think he's upset with me, but I freed him.
Anyway. Yeah, it was his own fault. Like he has to like accept take
responsibility for like forgive and forget, Fitz. Forgive and forget. Anyways, I have a beef when people like just in general because I watch a lot of TV, right? Just how much.
Yeah.
and sometimes like I'm reading the comments about episodes or reviews of shows, and people are like, you have to really suspend your disbelief for this. And like, I hate this tone. And I'm like, yeah, like that's the point of interacting with any kind of media. If you don't suspend your disbelief, you are going to get something extremely boring. It's meant to be that way. And then I think it's so annoying when people pick like extremely, they think it's plot holes, but really it's things that don't matter at all.
Yeah.
They will pick like one thing about like, I don't know, the budget, the fictional budget of like a company or a school or a family for something, and it's like those are made up people.
Yeah, like it's completely made up.
Not to quote the Queen Britney Spears, but this is fiction, right? It's just God. I didn't intend on going on a rant about this, but yeah, fiction is fantastic and it's superior. And I love fiction so much. I actually read a lot of nonfiction too, but like fiction, there's just me something. Okay, there are more things I want to ask you. I loved that Theo had ADHD. I thought that it was really well done. And I would like, if you don't mind, to share a little bit about your decision to include it in the way that you have, and why aren't more books like that?
So it was an accident. I didn't mean to include it. I got my edit letter back from my editor, and there were a few things she had flagged, and she was like, "It's like some of these things feel like unrealistic. Like, why is he doing this? Why is he acting like this? Whatever." And I was just like, "What do you mean these things are unrealistic? Everyone does these." And I was like, "Oh no, I do these because I have ADHD." And then I realized, oh man, I accidentally built half his character off of having a disorder that he's not supposed to have. Just because there were things that like felt normal to me. And then I remembered that like, right, okay, right. Like, yeah, only 4% of the population does this weird stuff. So then I was like, okay, so I was like, okay. So then I basically just emailed her back and I was like, hey, so like all of these things, these are all ADHD traits. I think I just accidentally projected my ADHD onto the page. So what if we just change it so that he has ADHD and we just make it canon? And she was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. So I was like, okay, cool. So we'll just do that then. So that ended up, yeah. So like I think there was like maybe like one or two things that I ended up adding like later. Like I think like pretty much the parts where he like consciously was like, I have ADHD. That stuff got added after. But like pretty much everything else that was like an ADHD behavior, that stuff was kind of just already in there. And then I was like, oops, my bad. And yeah, I think it's funny because like I mean, I think it's like twofold why we don't see this more. Like one is because I think a lot of people have like ADHD and don't realize they do. And so they'll either be like, oh, well, everyone does this thing. And it's like, no, they don't. You have this disorder that you don't realize you have. Or it'll be like, like the opposite, where like people who have ADHD will just not realize that the things that we're doing are like tied to the ADHD. And so like I feel like there's just a lot of like misunderstanding of what even goes into ADHD, what's tied into it, and all that kind of stuff. Like people just kind of think it is the attention deficit, and that is all. And so like when people go to write it, they're like, oh, well, that's the only thing I'm including because that's all that it is. And it's like, no, it's actually, rejection sensitivity and like, you know, anger, like anger management and like all of these other things, like, struggles with dopamine and like, impulsivity and like all that kind of stuff. And so like that ultimately I feel like just kind of like it was like one of those things where like, it accidentally happened, and then I was just kind of like, oh well, I don't want to take it out. Like I don't want to change who he is. I would rather just like put a name on it and call it a day.
I love that. I love that. It was really nice to me to see that because I am autistic and I feel like so often, and I think I told you about Danny from my book, right? That I accidentally wrote him as autistic as well before I got my diagnosis.
Oh, really?
I did? Okay. So I wrote Bad at Love, and then and then I sent it to my agent before I sent it to my editor, and she was like, "Look, I think it's really nice that your main character is autistic, but why do you never mention that by name in the narrative? Like you don't shy away from saying he's demisexual, you don't shy away from other kinds of labels. Then why are you not calling him autistic in the narrative?" And I was like, wait, what?
Called out.
That was before my diagnosis. So I had I was like, why do you think he's autistic? Like this is the character that has the closest like train of thought of as me that I have ever written. Why is he autistic? So anyway, I was like, let's maybe see some doctor. and I realized I was autistic, and it was kind of too late to add. I just ignored my agent's comment, and he remained the way he was. So he's definitely autistic, and it doesn't appear on the page because I think when did you get diagnosed when you were an adult already?
Yeah, college.
Didn't you feel like you didn't have enough of it to claim it or something?
I don't think I did because I think I realized it, but
Oh,
I think like it was like prior to that moment, I think I spent like a lot of time being like, oh, haha, like, I do these weird things. I'm just quirky and weird. Like there's no
yeah,
like there's nothing like to it. I was just my personality. I'm just weird.
yeah,
Like
exactly. I'm just weird. Yeah, I
weird.
definitely felt that way. I remember like when I got the diagnosis and when I started reading about adults, autistic adults and the spectrum, I was like, I'm not autistic enough to make my main character autistic. People are going to read it and call me out, and they're going to say like a neurotypical person wrote an autistic character who is not really autistic. And I was like, okay, I don't want to like do a disservice or something. And then like my editor never even found out we had this conversation. So the book went on, and with time I got more confident and more comfortable as well, because there's a lot of stigma with getting diagnosed as an adult, like so much of it, especially when you have like learning disabilities as well, as the case with me. So it was like just a lot. But now I see so much, like I read and watch so much um media, and then I'm like, this character is very obviously autistic.
Yeah.
This is an autistic person. And then I watch an interview with the author or the creator, one of the writers of the show, and they'll be like, oh yeah, like they're a bit quirky like me. And I'm like, so you're an autistic person as well? Okay, you do not know that, but you are.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like I see that a lot with characters who are so blatantly ADHD. And I think I didn't realize that for the longest time because I gravitate towards certain character archetypes that I just
Mhm.
have always, like since a kid, like those are always the types of characters that I liked. And one of them is literally just ADHD in a character. And I feel like yeah, like I would always be like, oh my god, this character is just like me. Like finally a character who understands me. And like everyone would be like, why do you relate to that character? Like you're not like white or like you're not like whatever like identity this character has. And I'm like, yeah, but something about them, I don't know. Like I just we're just weird. And then
The
it's
vibes.
and you're like, no, like this person is literally the only person who's representing your neurotype. Like they're the only person who thinks the way you do. And suddenly you're like, but I think more often than not, like these characters, like some of the best, and I've heard this for autism too, is like some of the best ADHD rep I have seen was not called ADHD rep because the creator didn't think it was ADHD. They're like, that's not what ADHD is. And you're like, oh honey. Like
Yes, so much. But parallel to this, I read a book recently. It's called The Half-Lived Lives of Sam Sylvester. Have you read it?
I'm not.
It's so good. It's about this kid who is autistic, and it's also they're also queer, and they also have this very intense relationship with death. And it's just a beautiful book all around. I definitely recommend it. But it was one of the first times I read a book with an autistic main character who knew they were autistic. And I don't know the author, but it felt so authentic and genuine. I don't know anything about the author, so I don't know if they're neurotypical or neurodivergent or whatever. But if they're not autistic, they did an incredible job, because it was so like, I kept reading it and I was like, oh my God, imagine if I knew, like, if I had this kind of vocabulary when I was a teen or like 3 years ago. Like, not even. It's really interesting. So I really enjoyed that Theo was had his diagnosis, had his not even, it's not about the diagnosis, but knew he had ADHD. I thought it was really awesome. And I also appreciate how it's said, like right in the beginning. I think it's in the first or second chapter by him. I really like these moments of like, yeah, like this is who I am. Yeah, this is just part of who I am. So I really enjoyed that. Theo was one of my favorite POV characters, like in a very long time. I loved Gabby as well. Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, but Gabby, because I'm sure that Gabby is going to have like a wide range of people being like, oh, I love you forever. And that's fair. That's valid. I am Team Gabby as well. But Theo, like, just so much love for Theo.
This is a weird dichotomy I'm noticing so far. Like, obviously, the book has been out in the world for like a day and a half. So, like, this is just the very beginning. But, like, I'm noticing readers have been like Gabby, like protection squad, like very hardcore Gabby. But the authors that I've talked to have been like very Theo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I'm like, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. I have no explanations. I have no theories. But like, I will let you know if this changes over time. But this is what I have seen so far.
Okay. Yeah, this is amazing. This is really funny because yeah, I mean, like I said, I love Gabby as well. I think Gabby is fantastic, but Theo, like, it hits different here. This is so funny. This is so funny that authors seem to have like a preference.
I feel like there's gotta be there's something, and I don't know, maybe it's just like the authors that I'm talking to, we're all just like, we all just have that like neurodivergent like brain
Yeah.
processing or something. But yeah, like so far I've noticed, I'm like, because I've actually gotten quite a few messages already about people just being like, I love Gabby so much, like I want to protect him, I just want to like wrap him in a hug. And I'm just like, okay, everyone loves Gabby. And then I'm like talking to authors, like, and they're like, oh yeah, Theo was so, I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that as well. How has been the book reception? Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been really great. Like, I mean, I feel like I don't know if there are as many negative reviews as there were for Meet Cute Diary, but I'm definitely getting tagged in fewer, so that's all I ask. So I was like, I'm content with that.
Any negative reviews from
Yeah,
now.
I'm like, just don't tag me, and my life is golden. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like people have really liked it. I've got a lot of people say that, like, like a lot of people really love Gabby, and I've had a lot of people just kind of gush about the romance. I've had a lot of people say that they cried, and I'm like, oh no, like
I cried too, but it was a good cry. It wasn't like I want to just forget about everything and curl into a ball, cry forever. It was like cathartic crying. It was good crying. Yeah. I love that this book is being so well received because it really deserves it, and you really deserve it.
thank
You
you.
are a master storyteller. You craft worlds that are just such a joy and so relatable at the same time. Your characters are fantastic and they feel so real. So I am here for Emery taking over the world. So
Thank
here.
you. I mean, here's hoping that some of my newer angstier projects sell, and then I can like hurt people more. I don't know.
I'm here to be heard. That's fine. It's okay by me. I'm totally okay with being heard. So I hope I get to, make my shrine that much bigger. Did you know there is nothing shipping to Brazil right now? Like Book Depository doesn't ship to Brazil anymore.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so I have a physical copy of Meet Cute Diary, like in the pink part of my rainbow around here, I think. But yeah, I just have Café Con Lychee here on my Kindle because sadly I can't have any more foreign books.
I can just mail you one.
I mean, I would be happy,
Yeah, I can do that.
but you need to put like from Emery with love, like little heart.
Yeah,
Then
I can do that. Yeah, that's totally a doable thing.
okay, tell me if you could take out like an auntie, like take out chaperone Gabby and Theo on a date. where would you take them that they would both have fun and, be with their auntie?
Um, this is so weirdly specific. I would take them to the Anaheim packing district
Okay.
because yeah, there's like this whole it's actually like when I first made the aesthetic for the book, I actually took a picture there and like I used it because it's like this whole like almost like a food court, but like it's a very pretty one with tons of food, tons of ethnic food, and like tons of like dessert and like good boba tea and like all that kind of stuff. So I would take them there and I would let them like share food with each other. I feel like that would be like
That's amazing. I love that answer. How about food now that you mentioned it? If you had to choose between the two of their family restaurants to only have food there for the rest of your life, which one would you choose?
okay, it would be the Moris, and the reason I say that is because I've since determined that I could probably eat ramen every day of my life and like be okay with things. I don't think there's like any other food that I feel like I could eat like every day and like survive. So I feel like I would have to like opt for the Japanese food just like for that purpose.
That makes perfect sense. And to be fair, ramen is so good. I don't know if I could eat it forever because I can't just have one serving. So I feel like the sodium, like the salt in it, would probably kill me.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but I would have fun
You
while I'm
know?
still alive. I would be having, time of my life. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, something else. You know that I'm really into music. So what do you think that Theo and Gabby are listening to in 2022?
Ooh, okay. So I had like my playlist was a lot of like just like vibes and stuff.
Mhm.
But then I also had like just like a handful of like songs that specifically like I associated with like one character or the other. So like for Gabby, I had like a few like Becky G songs, and that was like very like I felt like the energy that I feel like he would be like, oh yeah, like this is like vibe and music. And then for Theo, I had like kind of like a weird assortment of some like J-pop and some like C-pop and like I think like I ended up having like a bunch of songs by like like I don't know if you know like the Chinese group like She like
I do not.
I
I always find out.
and like they're like old school. Like this is not like like hip like kid music or anything. Like this is like like older like audience music. But I don't know why. Like I just feel like I feel like Theo is like like he's like a rocket like of like explosion like fire and shit. But, like underneath that, I feel like he's just like a grandfather. Like
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense.
so
Yes.
like I feel like now that like the anger has like toned down a bit, like he's probably like listening to like like older music, just like cooking and like hanging out with like his boyfriend and shit. Like I feel like
Grandpa Theo. That's perfect. Yeah, I can definitely see it. I can definitely see it. What if they were on Netflix, like watching stuff on Netflix, but yes, to a movie about them on Netflix? If they were to control what they were gonna watch tonight, what movie or show would each of them try to convince the other to watch?
I feel like Gabby would be like watching like I don't know like Shira or like one of those like
Oh,
cartoon like
nice.
yeah, like I feel like he would be totally into something like that. And I feel like Theo, I feel like Theo would probably be into like a really sappy K drama, like something like really corny. I feel like would probably be his thing, like or that or like I don't know like Word of Honor or something like really like one of those like gay shows. Like I feel like something like that.
I can definitely see like Theo watching Business Proposal and then Gabby like teasing him about it, like really, like that's your thing, and then Theo being like, shut up, it's
Yeah, like don't talk about this. Like keep this quiet.
good, okay? It's really good. It's yes, I can definitely see that happening and being like defensive about it. That would be amazing. And onto Theo, Gabby being into Shira, I'm thinking like who would be his favorite princess? Um, I feel like he definitely wouldn't be that into Katra, and it would be like, why is everyone shipping her with Shira? You know, like Shira deserves someone who is kinder and sweeter. And meanwhile, he's like basically dating Katra. Okay. I definitely feel like this would be a moment of epiphany for him. Like, hmm.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute. I love that. I think there's so much you can learn about a character based on like what they watch and what they listen to. So I really like that. And I agree that Theo being a grandpa, so good. You know that show, Old Enough, the Japanese reality show from the 90s? Oh, it's really good. It's basically, the premise is this, okay? Toddlers doing chores and being filmed from afar, and it being narrated very dramatically.
Oh
That's
no.
that's the whole show. But it's amazing. It's so cute and wholesome, and I feel like definitely this would be something that like Theo would watch in secret, like not want other people to find out because it's just so wholesome. There's like zero drama. The most dramatic thing is like, will little Yuta-chan remember that his mom also asked for shrimp or not? You know, like that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a very wholesome, and I think that Theo would be into that. Like when he's very stressed out and like and just like sitting down, old enough. Yes.
That's like there's this anime. I don't know what the full title of it is, but it's like there's about a penguin called like Chitose is like the name of like the penguin, and like it's literally like a 5 minute like they're 5 minute episodes, and the penguin is just going around town like doing little penguin things, like talking to people, like making friends, and, like like buying flowers and stuff. I feel like Theo would watch that and would be like tearing up, like it's so cute, like tearing up, and Gabby's like, "What's going on?" And Theo's like rushing like change the channel, nothing.
Just watching porn.
Yeah, I was watching porn.
I love that. I love slice of life kind of stuff. So I mean, this sounds like anime I need to watch also. Have you, I'm sorry, this is so unrelated, but have you watched Kotaro Lives Alone? You gotta, because we need to talk about it. It's just
You got to text me. You got to text me these.
okay. Yes, I'm going to. There's a few like trigger warnings I want to warn you about before, but like it's so good. Slice of life has my entire heart. Like, when people make slice of life interesting, it's everything. It's fantastic. There's no going wrong when that happens.
Yeah,
It's
like the quality of the storytelling, amazing.
yeah, exactly. I feel like if you know how to do that well, to like make the characters rounded and like have emotional arcs within slice of life, like you're fantastic. There's nothing else. I feel like you could be really good with slice of life.
I feel like I could only do like shorts. I can't do like long stuff.
Okay, I see. Would you prefer to write slice of life with people or animals?
I would say probably people because like I don't know how I would like figure. I feel like I figure out how people like are like based on like imagining them talk. So I feel
Mhm.
like with animals, I'd be like,
That's fair. That's fair. One of my dreams in life is to like write something involving like cats and slice of life. It just I think it's very obvious though. I'm not gonna even explain myself. I clearly have a thing.
yeah, no, I think today specifically made it clear.
Yeah. Thanks everyone who rooted for me being able to rescue Fitz. I think he's still not speaking to me. He's probably in the bedroom. He's not. But his sister is by my side. So at least one of the two cats I own I own, they would think that's so rude. The cats that I share my apartment with, well, at least one doesn't hate me right now, so that's good. Do you have pets?
Yeah, I have a dog, but
Oh yes, I have seen your dog. I have
yes,
seen your dog.
my
Where
cape's
is your dog?
locked in
Outside?
the room with my roommate.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Are you ever going to consider writing a sequel to Café Con Lychee?
So I don't have any plans for a sequel.
Mhm.
I do kind of have a spin-off, following a different character. I don't know what the case is for that story at the moment, because I kind of ran into some hiccups and everything. So we shall see if that ever, one day becomes a thing. But that is a potential thing.
Can you give us a hint?
No.
Can you give me a hint later?
Yes.
Hold on, we have a private chat. I just want to ask: is this character?
No.
Okay, who is it then? Because that was my first thought.
I'll tell you later.
I held like all of my heart here, and you were like later.
Because my thing is I don't want to like talk too much about like what potentially could be and then it's not.
Yeah. I know what
Yeah.
you mean.
So I don't want to disappoint everybody too much by being like, this is what would be if I could be, but it probably won't be. So
That makes sense.
yeah.
Well, I am sure everyone will be delighted with anything, any story you choose to tell us, because it will be written by you. And I'm gushing again, but you're just excellent at telling stories.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fantastic no matter what. Okay, dream, absolute, like, if you could choose anything to happen to this book, what would it be?
I would love for someone to make a food truck named after and inspired by the book.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, also I would get free boba for life because they stole like my idea.
That's amazing. I love that. Please, someone listening, get on that. Fantastic. Oh my god. I am thinking like in the style that people do for like actors in Korea when they have new dramas, like with the face and the hearts and the but it will be your face being like,
Oh my god. I feel like it'd be better if they just did like put like the characters on it. Like,
I mean, but they could do it for you specifically though. That would still be cool.
it would still be cool.
But yes, them would be also nice. But I'm just like, I'm like now I have this picture of you in my head being like, you don't even make that face. I'm just like thinking here how funny that would be. Yes, someone needs to get it. Someone rich, please. I don't have money to do that kind of thing, but someone rich must be watching or eventually watch. There is no time expiration. You can still send a food truck anywhere, actually. Where would the best place to be sent this? To Vermont, just to make it like the same location as the book?
I mean, my bias would obviously be like Southern California because I live here. But like, yeah, I mean, they could do. I feel like, I mean, it's a food truck, so like, y'all can drive it across the country, and that would be cute.
Travel around the country on a book food truck. That's amazing. That's fantastic. And then they can sell, also your book.
Yeah.
So it would be like just like a poster of your book and you, because I want your picture doing something like this. And then, like they can have specific names based on the characters or like scenes from the book.
Oh, that'd be cute.
Fantastic. See, I already gave like all of the logistics. Someone just needs to be rich enough to make that happen.
Yeah, I just need someone to You know, put the funds in. Thank you.
Yes. 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 I was gonna say yes, thanks. So yes, yes, please do that. It's going to be fantastic. What else?
I think it's time to call it a wrap
Oh,
on the
we've been on it for over an hour. Yeah, it's
yeah.
probably
I know. I love how we just kind of like get into talking and then we kind of like lose track of time. But like, yeah.
yeah, because it's so good to talk to you and to hear you talk about your book too. Everyone, please go read it. Please leave reviews on Amazon because those are super important for authors. Leave reviews everywhere. Tell all your friends to go buy it and only tag Emery in amazing reviews. Do you want to be tagged in amazing reviews?
Yeah, I mean that's fine. Yeah, I just rather people don't tag me in like negative
That's fine.
ones. Yeah.
That's fine. You don't need to tag him, but if you do, that's okay. If it's a brilliant review, like with 10 stars. Otherwise, just forget her name and move on.
Like
But it's
if you want to tag me in a shit post review, like please do. Like a review that's just like absolute chaos. It's just like humorous and stuff. Like those are
so much
yeah.
fun. Those are so much fun. I love it when people are like, I hate you, actually.
You know?
And like, I've done my job here. That's fantastic. That's a very good review. Yes. 5 stars. Thank you so much for having me, Emery. It was great fun to gush about those wonderful, wonderful characters and this amazing new adventure that you have written. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, and thank you to everyone who came to watch the stream. And of course, like if you purchase a copy of the book between now and Friday, you can still submit your receipts to the pre-order campaign. So please do and collect your free stuff. And thank you all for coming. And if you are in the LA area, please come to my launch event on Friday with Sonora Reyes as we celebrate Café Con Lychee and the Lesbianas Guide at the Rip Bodice in Culver City. Bye.
Bye.